Welcome everyone to yet another episode of YouCon Talks. We let out 2 episodes of YouCon Talks during the last 2 weeks. And if you all haven't already watched them, do remember to go check them out using this link. So today you all have joined with us for the third episode of YouCon Talks. And I am Navidi and I will be one of the hosts for today's session.
Hi, I'm Hansa, and we will be moderating today's session. As you all can see, today's episode is a bit different from the previous 2 episodes from last week. We are not in the studio today. Instead, we are bringing today's episode to you all virtually. Today's episode will be focusing on the title, Beginner's Guide to Content Creation, and we have a very special guest with us here today.
He is someone that we are all familiar with. He joined with us for YouCon 3.0 as well as 4.0. And this is the third time that he will be joining with YouCon. And we're so excited and grateful for his collaboration with us even this time.
He is a content creator, startup growth advisor, an author, and many more. He is the best-selling author of the Growth Hacking book series, which is an award-winning and world-recording book series. He is the most followed growth hacker and has contributed in many notable startups and enterprises and helped support startups to acquire their first 10,000 and 100,000 users and followers through consulting and done-for-you services.
He is none other than Rohan Chaubey. Rohan Chaubey, we are so excited and thankful for your participation with us for today's episode. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
Sure. First of all, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm Rohan Chaubey. I've been on YouCon 3-4 times, and I'm a best-selling author. I'm a growth marketer. I'm a community builder. I'm a content creator. And I essentially help startups get their first 100 to 100,000 users, customers, and community members.
So Rohan, let's get into the first question for today's session. You have been a familiar face to YouCon for the past few years, as mentioned before. Can you say how your experience has been with us so far?
Oh, it has been amazing. I think I'm doing this for the third or fourth time. And every time I get an invite from YouCon, I'm excited because I want to share all that I know and help upcoming creators. And I see a lot of dedication that you guys put in to make this happen. So kudos to you on that.
Would you recommend YouCon to those who are trying to get into content?
Of course, I have been sharing it to my audiences every single year. And the kind of guests that you bring in and their perspective and insights is amazing.
Okay, Rohan. So when did you get into content creation? And can you say why? What inspired you to begin this journey?
Yeah, so when I was 16, I actually started writing blogs. And we used to not call it back then like I'm a content creator or like how we see it right now. But blogging also was a form of content, right? And it used to be mainstream. I'm talking about 2013 to 2017. And then there was a rise in Instagram influencers and all kinds of influencers on every platform. And then we started calling influencers as content creators. And essentially, I feel everybody is a content creator on the internet, if you see it from that perspective. Of course, yes, there are a lot of consumers as well, but anyone who is posting anything on the internet is a content creator, or at least has a potential to be one. So whether it be just engaging in comments, those commentators also someday can be creators, right? So that's how I started. I went from being a blogger to marketer to starting my own YouTube channel and then my own communities. Now we are starting our own community media outlet. So it has been evolving over the years, but yeah, the theme is that the content is the backbone of everything.
So before starting to create and posting content, what are some steps you believe one should follow?
Before starting to create content, what should one think of? I think they should really dial into what their calling is. Calling in not in a very, appealing way, but more of like, what do they think their expertise in? And even if they do not have any expertise, they could actually be thinking of, okay, what are the things that they could really talk about or maybe learn and document at the same time. They don't really need to know everything, but they can find answers while creating content. So take their audiences on a journey, maybe. So I think there is no checklist as such that you need to follow. Everyone has their like own thing. But what could really be possible is, just getting started, finding your own tune and staying in your own lane, and you would and get to a point where you have your own novelty. So instead of, maybe you can seek inspiration from people, but then ultimately it has to be your own unique self, and creating your own, crafting a niche for yourself.
According to your understanding, is deciding your target audience an essential factor?
Yeah, you should. So maybe initially it could be a little broader, and as you start to understand what you really talk about and things that you say and do, would have an audience that finds it appealing. So eventually you have to like really niche down and know who you're writing it for, or who you're creating content for, or videos for, or whatever format you follow. You I think the the more niche you can really get into, the better it is, and you will be able to understand your audience really better. And it also is about going where your tribe is. For example, let's say some people may find their audience on, let's say, mainstream platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. Others may find it somewhere else, maybe a few lesser known. But there are so many social apps at the moment that it's really possible that maybe your audience is not on the mainstream platform. They could be actually on a very niche app. For example, there is creators program now on Quora and Reddit and these sites as well, which, when we think of creating content, like a few platforms that come to our mind which are popular are YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. But when you really think about it, there are actually so many possibilities, and you could it's just about you finding where you really feel, what platform you feel really aligned with, and where you can find your target audiences essentially.
How do we decide which platform to use to share your content? Should content differ from platform to platform? What is your idea on that?
So, okay, so there are two parts to this question. The first one is, how do you decide which platform? So,
yeah,
let me take an example. For me, it's more about dealing with startups and businesses and small businesses. So for me, it's about where can I find the business audiences? If someone is into, let's say, lifestyle content, maybe they are into vlogging. For them, it's about finding those masses, right? For me, it's like a class of people who may have their own businesses or they work with businesses would be really my target audiences. So the first step is to really decide who I want to go after. And even before that, it is about, what do you have to offer? Is it just the content, or you're creating this content for a service-based agency, for a service-based business, or for a product-based business? Is it like you have let's say, maybe an app, a software, or some physical product? The possibilities are countless. But what I'm trying to say is your content having a purpose to sell something or to promote something, or is it just content for the sake of content, in the sense that you're trying to educate people, inspire people, entertain people? So first decide on that. Once you have decided on that, the second step is to really find, okay, what is the platform where, like, who I need to be addressing, and on what platform we can find them. So maybe someone like me would find, let's say, LinkedIn or YouTube more ideal. And then once you have found those channels, you really go all out on them. Decide and see what formats work the best. Try to study the algorithm on those platforms. What kind of formats are being pushed and promoted by their algo? For example, Instagram used to be very popular for photo sharing. Then now it turns out that it's more of a video platform now. So as the platform evolves, you need to check what really matters, like what format is the most relevant. Same is the case with LinkedIn. When LinkedIn started, it innocently used to like promote everything. Then it started to have different kinds of formats. Now we even have audio webinars, we have a video, we have text, we have links, we have PDFs and whatnot, right? So it's really about finding all possible formats on a platform, then trying to analyze and understand which format gets promoted the most on their feeds and algorithms.
Moving on to the next question. Is consistency a must when it comes to creating content? How important is it planning for a content creator?
I think both are related for sure. The definition of consistency is not universal. That means my definition of consistency could be every day, and someone else's definition could be, let's say, every week. So consistency can be equated to frequency of posting content, but it's not really the frequency, right? But could be defined with frequency. For example, let's say, even if someone, I know YouTubers who post only one video per month, but every time they put something, they do it really well. So it's really about how consistently and how frequently you can publish quality content. As long as you are making no compromise on the quality, I think the consistency could be defined for each for us. It's individual, it's personal for everybody. But yes, consistency is good. However, there are some exceptions, right? For example, there would be some creators who are very random with what they post, but people expect that every time they put something, there is something interesting, and that's what keeps them hooked. So there is also this, the pigeonhole principle, that sometimes, yes, maybe a little bit of spontaneity is good, but then that consistency and predictability in terms of the frequency of the content can also keep audience engaged for a long time. For example, some of the platforms and digital channels actually reward consistency. If you post on if you post on YouTube, Instagram consistently, you would see gradually the engagement increasing. If you altogether go silent on search platforms and then come back after a long time, you would notice that it takes time to pick up. So it's really important to be consistent for sure. And then a simple recipe to be consistent is planning. You plan it in advance, you have the content ready, have a content bank, and then start publishing it to make it all simpler and easier.
So you have so many unique ideas. So how do you come up with those unique ideas?
I think unique ideas come with creativity, right? Of course, you can draw inspiration from different sources, but then if you mix those inspiration with your own creativity, that's how new ideas are born, right? For example, and another way to look at it is, if you can mimic a concept from another industry and bring it to yours. For example, let's say I am from India, and there are Bollywood movies about all kinds of themes. If I have to do something, if I have to pick one idea from Bollywood for my content creation, I would probably make a docu-film on startups. So it's not that I'm trying to get into Bollywood, but the inspiration is that, okay, can we do a movie on startups? So I'm actually mixing two things. One is inspiration from Bollywood movies, and then my niche, which is B2B, more business and startup oriented, and trying to mix them together to come up with a unique format, right? And the format could extend to not just being like a YouTube video, but actually making a film or docu-series or something like that for startups. So I think that's how ideas are born. You mix two completely random ideas together and try to see if it can make something unique.
A common question creators face is creator's block. How would you address a creator's block?
Oh, creator's block. As
Yeah.
in, sometimes you want to create content, but you just can't come across, good ideas, or you have run out of ideas. And there is a time when you don't just feel like creating content, or you just don't have that enough creativity, right? I think it's really important to self-reflect and recharge. Go find inspiration from different places. For example, one of my favorite ways is to I'm into mantra meditation, and every time I meditate, I come across new ideas. For some people, it could be traveling. For some people, it could be consuming content of other good creators in their niche, or even outside of your niche. So there are different things for different people, and I think it's really about finding what inspires you, what fuels your passion, and what you know is acts like a catalyst to come up with new ideas. And perhaps it's sometimes also conversations, right? You talking to your audiences, or maybe you speaking to a fellow creator, being in association with, let's say, a community. This is all ideas for getting new content ideas, and fresh perspectives that you can build upon and create content on.
So, what resources or platforms do you recommend for beginners to learn more about content creation, editing, and other necessary skills?
Okay, so there are many resources. It could be, free or paid, depending on what format works. So I think a question for us to address is, what makes me learn the quickest? Is it working alongside someone to understand what I'm doing? Is it consuming structured content from places like Udemy? Is it browsing through free resources or different tutorials on YouTube? Or is it text, that is blog posts about certain things, a step-by-step process for doing stuff? Once I know what format works for me, then I would go and find resources for myself. And then it could be about specific topics. So let's say I am a learner that learns from tutorials, video tutorials. I would probably find them on YouTube. If I like structured courses, I would probably go on Udemy and find them. If I learn faster by working with someone or shadowing someone at work, then I would probably reach out to people who I admire for this one skill and tell them that, hey, can I shadow you at work? I want to learn from you. And at the same time, I can help you with your work. So, and then again, there are also written guides and tutorials on the internet. So it really depends on what format makes me learn the quickest. And then going forward with that format and having your own research.
So, as a creator, what advice do you have regarding building an initial audience, and what can one do to increase their subscriber count?
So building an initial audience is like the hardest. Like your first 1,000 is going to be the toughest, and then it gets easier. So you should start with your immediate network. It could be your friends, it could be your colleagues, it could be your family, and then asking them if you can get to a second degree connections. That is, these people share it with their own friends and family. And initially, you could actually ask these folks that, okay, I create content about this topic or niche. What would you want me to create content on? So it is specifically meant for them, which will make them share the content. Once you start going outside of your immediate network, I think the second best way to attract new audience on your, let's say, YouTube channel could be communities. It could be about anything. For example, let's say if I had a cooking channel, I would go to some Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord, Reddit communities which are specifically talking about cooking, let's say. And if it's, let's say, if I'm a, moto vlogger or some tech channel, again, the possibilities are endless for these as well. So finding those communities and then engaging in those communities and then trying to, let's say, take content inspiration from there and participating in the dialogue. Let's say, for example, if in a tech community a question says, what are the best budget phones, smartphones? So if I was a tech YouTube channel, I would go and create content on that and then share in the community saying that, oh, someone was asking about this, I created a full video on it. So it's like trying to engage whatever communities you're a part of and then trying to be becoming a prominent creator there. It could work in the initial days because then you are trying to acquire these community members as your subscribers. If you become bigger than that, for example, let's say you are sitting at 5,000 to 10,000 subscribers and you cannot be dedicated or sticking to just one community, that's where you start to see the trends on the internet. Maybe there is a launch of a new smartphone and you want to cover that. Maybe there is Apple iPhone launches and you want to cover that. That's when you go beyond communities and beyond your personal network and try to see the and learn the trends on the internet. A good tool for that is Google Trends and then some SEO related keyword research tools. So that's my advice on growing the initial audiences, because when you are catching on to the trends, that's when, let's say, something like if you're on YouTube SEO will start to push you. You will start to have more organic traffic from YouTube because of the searches that the users are doing on YouTube. So that's my advice. Start with your immediate network, create content for them, then get to communities, create content for communities. When you become bigger than them, then go on to catch trends and news on the internet.
So according to your opinion, is understanding YouTube analytics important? And how can this be done successfully?
Try to spend some time on the YouTube dashboard. It shows you all kinds of things, like where the video is picking up, where your audience is dropping, where the traffic is coming from, what channels are working for you. Is it the organic YouTube SEO driving you traffic, or is it some external shares that are driving you traffic? What's the watch time? What kind of videos get you most views? And can you take your best performing videos and create a spin-off version of it in a different from a different perspective? So all these insights are there just on the YouTube analytics and dashboard. It just maybe spend some time every day on YouTube studying your analytics, and you would have all these answers. And once you know these answers, you can probably plan your content accordingly. I have seen YouTubers creating content time and time again on similar topics because they want to be known for that. So analytics is which would answer these questions.
Okay, so a very popular topic nowadays is AI. What are your thoughts on AI and what kind of an effect, according to your understanding, does it have on content creation?
That's a really good question. So I think AI is like the best thing to happen to content creation because there are so many tools that now assist us to create content, right? For example, I have started to use a video editing tool that just self analyzes my pauses and errors and corrects it. Then there are tools that are trying to add all kinds of different graphic and images on top of your videos. uh, it's going to get better. And then there are narration videos. You can do all kinds of videos, even like there are YouTube channels that are called faceless channels, right? Or I don't know if there's a different term to it, where there is not a person, but they are still informative and they try to have like a narrator, and then they show clips and videos on it. So the possibility of content creation is really open now. It's getting easier, and this offers opportunity for more people to get on the bandwagon and get started. I think with AI, the future of content could actually become even more advanced. Let's say I could be doing a podcast where my host is actually AI asking me questions like you are doing right now. Maybe the next YouCon, you would have an AI as a guest. You never know. So it could be interesting. Like the angle, of course, are interesting, but I'm not suggesting that we are going to take out humans from the content. We will just try to use AI to like optimize our processes further, try to sprinkle some creativity with what we are already doing, and lastly make it easier of whatever used to be tedious back then. So yeah, AI is actually a good boon to the content creators.
Yeah, so now let's move on to the last question of our session. So what would your advice be to someone hoping to get into content creation?
So my advice is learn from people who you admire, who have been there and done that. Collaborate with people who are at the same stage as you, and teach people who are newbies and you know better than them. So this is how we strengthen the creator economy, and this is how we help each other and learn from each other. So that's my advice.
Thank you so much for joining with us today. So I would like to ask you how today's session was.
I really liked all the questions that you framed for me. Thank you so much for having me once again.
Okay, and that is it for today's episode. We have come to the very end, and thank you to everyone who stick with us to the very end of our today's episode. And I hope it was a very knowledgeable and very interesting session for you all. So you can all reach out to us through our social media sites, that is TikTok, WhatsApp, and our Facebook site, as well as our official website, www.aisec.lk/YouCon. And do stick with us. We'll be releasing more interesting episodes during these few weeks. So stick with us and hope you all have a good week.